we present our paper, Analyzing Discrete Self-Supervised Speech Representation for Spoken Language Modeling by Amitai Sicherman and Yossi Adi at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Self-supervised learning methods for speech have shown great success on many downstream tasks. Specifically, this allows recent success in generative spoken language modeling. In generative spoken language modeling, we learn a discrete representation, also called units, of the speech signal. Although these models can generate meaningful and coherent speech, little is known about the properties captured by these units. In the next few minutes, we will present our work, which analyzed, evaluated, and improved these units. Let's start with a brief introduction to the generative spoken language modeling. The general pipeline consists of three main modules: 1. Speech to unit, 2. Unit language model, 3. Unit to speech. We can ignore the unit language model step to make a speech resynthesis. In the first step, speech to unit, the model encodes the raw speech signal into a continuous representation and then quantizes the representation to a sequence of discrete units. For the continuous representation, a pre-trained model, like UBERT, CPC, or MFCC, gets as input the speech and predicts a sequence of continuous representations in a lower frequency. For the quantization, a k-means algorithm is applied over the model's output to generate discrete units. We next discuss some improvements to these clustering methods. The second step, unit language model, is a standard language model that gets the discrete units as input and can be used to generate speech, conditionally or unconditionally. The last step, unit to speech, converts the discrete speech representation back to speech. In this work, we do it using unit-based vocoder using Haifigan. In this work, we are analyzing the units in three axes: 1. Interpretation, 2. Visualization, and 3. Resynthesis. Units interpretation. We checked the correlation between the unit and three speech properties: phonemes, speaker, and gender. We used the V-measure for this experiment. This is the V-measure results. Two key points in this table. 1. The V-measure for speaker and gender is much lower than the phonemes. This indicating a high correlation to the phonemes and a low correlation to the speaker or gender. The second, when we check the effect of the number of the units, while for the speaker or gender more units lead to higher score, in the phonemes there is a maximum point, both for the UBERT and a CPC. We claim that redundancies cause this. Units visualization. A geometric structure is an additional point of view of the unit's meaning. For this purpose, we create a 2D view that contains information about the relationship between the continuous representation, discrete units, and the phonemes. We first project the high-dimensional speech representation into 2D using the TSNE and use the Vironi diagram to convert the scatter plot into an area plot, as seen in the top row. In addition, as the bottom row shows, we create a single label to represent each cluster using unit-to-phoneme alignment. Finally, we replace each unit with his corresponding phoneme and color the area based on the phoneme and phoneme family. In the end of this process, we get the following figures. The figures clearly show a consistent structure. First, units that represent the same phoneme are usually close. Moreover, phonemes from the same phoneme family also tend to be close to each other. Unit resynthesis. Next, we analyzed the unit's information from the opposite direction, that is, through speech resynthesis. The method for this step is to decode the unit back to speech using lookup table and transcribe the generated audio and measure the word error rate. Intuitively, in case of a strong correlation between the unit and the phonemes, we can take a single sound to represent each unit and apply the unit-to-speech step using the concatenation of these sound pieces. We explore different types of keys for the lookup table that combined from these two options. 1. If the key contains the unit's repeat length. 2. If the key contains the unit's context, that is, the units before and after these units in the sequence. The results are similar to our intuition. There is just a slight difference between the Haifigan and the lookup scores. Also, we can see that the context of the units critically affect the results, while the unit lengths have a lower effect. Finally, this understanding helps understand unit redundancies. The same phoneme in different contexts will be represented by other units. In the analysis section, We found that units contain redundancies. For this purpose, we introduce the circular resynthesis method, CR, an unsupervised evaluation matrix that measures discrete unit redundancies. How does this matrix work? As you can see on the left, we first perform a complete resynthesis, that is, encoding and decoding the speech signal. Then, we apply an additional speech to unit stage and measure the unit edit distance between the first and the second units. To reach the final score, as you can see on the right, we calculate the number of swaps between each pair of units over all the dataset. Intuitively, a high CR indicates on the redundancies between the units. The last part of our work uses all we discovered and proposed improvements to the clustering method. We created three different methods, while in all of them we start from the standard k-means with k equal to 2000 and iteratively merge the cluster to reach the target number of clusters. In the first method, named double k-means, we use additional k-means to merge the clusters. In the second method, k-means with hierarchical clustering, we merge the cluster using agglomerative clustering. The last method, k-means with weighted hierarchical clustering, also uses the agglomerative clustering, but with modified version of the Euclidean distance, weighted by the CR metric. The intuition behind the last method is that clusters with high CR are more likely to be merged. Therefore, based on the understanding that CR measures the redundancies, this method reduces redundancies and combines clustering that representing similar acoustic concepts. We evaluate these methods in two axes. One, ABX. We use the discrete representation and the cosine similarity to measure ABX. Two, speaker information. We measure the accuracy of simple DNN to predict the speaker given the units. As shown in the table, the proposed methods improve the result for most configurations. Moreover, the best results for ABS across were obtained using CR. Conclusion. In this work, we analyzed the units from three different points of view: interpretation, visualization, and resynthesis. The analysis showed a strong correlation between the units and the phonemes. In addition, we found redundancies in the units which the unit's context can explain. Finally, based on these understandings, we proposed methods to improve the unit's clustering.